would you say that it should be against the law to discriminate against people based on their body size?
Unquestionably.
Okay, what does that mean? Do you notice how the word discrimination is almost like this signal to the other person of like, oh, to be a good person right now, I have to affirm I would never discriminate. And I'm thinking, okay, we haven't defined the word. We don't know what we're really talking about. So Jillian Michaels was on Jubilee over the weekend. And in all transparency, I will say that Jillian Michaels is she's one of the celebrities that I pray for regularly. I don't know if you ever pray for celebrities, but I do. There's a few of them that the Lord really like puts on my heart. And Jillian is one of them that I've been praying for many years, and watching her kind of evolution from being sort of a progressive to being center right. It's like I'm hoping she has Christians in her life to really bring her the real Jesus. And I do pray for her. So I do have a special place in my heart for Jillian Michaels. I know a lot of people don't like her because she's kind of known for yelling at contestants on The Biggest Loser back in the early 2000s. But it was good. Victoria said she enjoyed the interview. I wish she was saved because I can see it. Yeah. I wish Jillian would find the Lord. She's had a complicated childhood, but I think she's come a long way in her evolution. Anyways, so she was on Jubilee, which so it was Jillian Michaels versus like 19 or 20
the heavies
people that promote fat theory and body positivity. And so I thought it would be fun for us to interact with a couple of clips. So we've talked a lot on the show about critical theory, critical race theory, feminist theory. One of the critical theories people might not be so familiar with is fat theory, fat studies, which is a real critical theory. Like people could probably go get, I don't know, master's degree, doctorate. I don't know.
Sure. In critical fat theory or critical fat studies.
All right, here we go.
Let's go.
What I'm curious about is if you care about people's health and you have people in front of you, and I'm sure you have people online who are telling you that the body positivity movement, or I prefer body liberation, body justice, body acceptance, body blah, all the good shit that we like, actually increases their health, then I don't understand your debate. Like, what are you debating if the fat people are telling you it makes their life better?
I'm debating their physical health, and I'm debating the people who claim that you can be physically healthy at any size.
Okay. Do you think you can be physically healthy and mentally unhealthy at the same time?
Of course, but that's not the claim.
Okay, sure.
By the way, woke white Wendy here, she's a therapist.
I am sure she is. But the whole thing is that, so
the claim is obesity is not healthy. Pretending it is puts lives at risk.
But then I would say what she's going to argue then is that to be the size that you want to be, like, or, the size that makes you feel body positive is the way for you to be mentally healthy. But you can be, like, mental health doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with your weight. I mean, the opposite of that would be true about skinny people or anorexics and bulimics. Like, so would she then argue that, well, you should just let people be anorexic and bulimic because that's where their positive mental space is?
You have questions. All right, let's continue with woke Wendy here, the therapist.
I think the part where I get stuck, I am a mental health professional. I work with people from a body liberation standpoint. I work with people in all shapes of bodies. What I know to be true from my experience is that body positivity.
Body liberation standpoint.
It is.
I just couldn't let that pass.
It is.
After doing a whole dissertation on standpoint theory.
Body liberation helps people take care of themselves. It's very difficult to understand why you think somebody is going to take better care of a body they hate. Like why body positivity would not inspire people to take better care of their bodies.
You're strawmanning my argument. I never said you should hate your body. In fact, you
No, you
should.
didn't.
Okay, so I don't think that. What I think is that there are people in the movement who have co-opted healthy at any size, and it went from access to healthcare to quite literally meaning for them that you can be healthy at any size, and that's not true.
Okay. I mean, the studies show that if you're very, 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 very thin, or your body is very, 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 very big, it is more difficult to be healthy. That is absolutely
But
true.
then you agree with me on this point.
I don't, because I don't think body positivity is the dangerous thing. I think hatred of fat bodies and people hating themselves and people living in self-loathing because they've been taught that their body is the wrong shape, that's the danger.
Both can be true at once. So let's look.
So
Was that the whole clip?
I got another clip, but that was the taste of woke Wendy, the therapist.
I think it's interesting how we want to create environments for people to be quote unquote healthy, but in order to create that healthy environment, in some regards, we're going to advocate for unhealthy standards as well in order to get them to be healthy. Or we're going to advocate for a reality that is going to lead to early death and disease and, extra weight on our medical system and things like that. Also, so someone else can supposedly be happy. But it's kind of like Lizzo. Before Lizzo lost her weight, she was all, I'm just body positive and da 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 da. But then she lost her weight and everybody was like, well, what happened to your body positivity?
She likes being thinner.
Right?
But being thin is like the thing now. Like everyone's on the fat shot. And by the way, I learned from this video that the body positivity people do not like the word obesity or overweight, but they do prefer the term being fat. So fat is the word we're supposed to. That's the sensitive word.
Don't call me fat. Look, I know I got issues. Just call me chunky, fluffy. I go with fluffy a lot. I'm fluffy. It's my winter weight. I know we in spring on Friday, but I'm gotta catch up.
What confuses me though about this perspective, and maybe you can help me understand it, is that like I'm thinking about it from Jillian's perspective. There's a great comment from Zane of like, what about BMI? What about like some numbers and
data's racist. And so when you think of this whole thing in regards to race. So Ibram Kendi in his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, talks about, the body, he doesn't call it body positivity. I'm forgetting exactly what he calls it, but he connects it to race and this idea of like this body racism. And so if you look at whiteness and what whiteness is and how data is racist and this idea of numbers and all of that being part of whiteness, well, I'm not going to come in and talk about the BMI because that is meant for a person who is not me. It's more meant for, your probably white, middle, upper class Christian.
Well, they do talk about like body justice, body liberation. And I guess to me, like there was a couple of therapists in the Jubilee thing, and it didn't seem like their project was about.
Sorry. Big bone got me. Hey, but I am big boned. Okay, go ahead. Listen, I'm listening. Go ahead. Don't pay no attention to me. Keep going.
What it just seems like their idea of therapy is.
Oh, don't get me going down this trail.
Affirmation, as opposed to like maybe I should try to figure out how to have an insight about myself that relates to my disordered thinking, whether that's, or my disordered eating, whether that's anorexia, bulimia, or overeating. It's like, it seems like there's, the way they're using the term therapy just sounds like my job as a therapist is just affirmation. It's not to help them explore this as a mental disorder or that they have disordered eating and trying to understand why.
Mm-hmm. So I have a whole ton of thoughts about the concept of therapy at this current cultural moment, and how it is not, let me say this, it takes a lot of work, research, prayer to be able to find a therapist who is not necessarily client-centered in the wrong way. There is an aspect of therapy and psychology that is client-centered, and that can be done in a way that is good, well, true, beautiful, like that can really, I'll say, promote the good of a client. But I think what's happening right now in a lot of therapy rooms and in a lot of therapy training sessions, so in the universities, is that we have this redefinition of what the word trauma is. We have a redefinition and a remolding of what therapy should look like, and kind of like a rethinking of even who the client is and what the client is and how we should interact and engage with the client, what the goals are, all of this. And so because of that, we're seeing a shift in therapy. We're seeing a shift in, what it looks like to come alongside someone, to be a support, to walk a road with someone, to actually help someone to, investigate life and get to a better place or whatever that is. But I think that is all tied up years before they get to being that woman. I think all of that is tied up in the college classroom, the master's and,
how they're
PhD
trained.
level classroom. Yeah, how they're trained. It's how and I was just talking with someone who's getting she's renewing her continuing education credits and looking at the DSM-5 and the it's kind of like an addendum or just an update, to some different terms and things like that, and how all of that is shifting from even just 10 years ago. And so I have a lot of concern about therapists. And when someone says that they are a mental health professional, I generally give side eye, because
especially if they're younger.
If they're younger, and I don't care if it's Christian or non-Christian at this point.
Another one of the therapists, there was another white lady on there who was a therapist, and she told Jillian, like, I'm not going to speak to the science. And it was just all about affirming the person. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. Now, there's another interesting comment here about an African perspective on weight.
This is very true.
Since you lived in Africa, wondering if you could comment on this. I grew up in an African country where if you were fat, and we learned today that fat is the positive word, but it was positive because it meant that you were wealthy enough to afford enough food to gain weight.
So I didn't live just in Africa, because Africa's a whole big, continent, but I did live in South Africa and often traveled to Zambia. And that idea is extremely true. And so there were two, at least in my experience, there were two main thoughts about someone who was heavy, especially a heavy woman. A heavy woman showed that her husband really cared about her. He was working, so he was able to bring home enough money. The kids were being fed. Like, we are, well off enough to eat. Another thought too that I heard quite a bit as I traveled was the idea of weight also means health, that I'm healthy, I'm not sick, I'm not, plagued down with some disease and things like that. And boy, when I say the African meal, I don't care what country you're in, Botswana, just an African meal will just be the thing that blesses you for like the month. Oh my gosh.
You love a good African meal.
I don't care what country I'm in. Yes, I do.
Okay, let's do the next clip here.
Zambia is the country I grew up in. Yeah.
Okay, this goes to what you were speaking about earlier about Kendi and the connection between fat studies and intersectionality. Are you ready?
I am.
This is big fun. Now, this woman you're going to hear from is an actual fat activist. She's the president of like a fat activist, like a very OG fat activist group that was founded in the 60s.
That everything that has to do with food and its lack of health correlates with fatness, because we are saying body positivity.
Obesity
so again, the claim here on this one is, I think this is the
Large
one of
food companies.
this is about big food
Mhm.
is rigging the system to make people fat, because in the chemistry of the food, they make it so you don't just eat one cookie or one chip. they've rigged the chemistry that it doesn't satiate your body.
Is that what's wrong with me?
Yeah, Jillian talks about this all the time.
I've been eating like 18.
You're a victim.
I am. And I'm Black. Let me stop.
Yeah,
Keep
that'll
going.
be relevant here
Come
in a
on, let's
minute.
go.
So that's what they're debating.
Well, no, well, we are saying body positivity, and body positivity includes all kinds of ways of being in a body, right? Not just body size. It includes all of the things about disability and skin color and hair texture and all of the things, right? Body positivity. But we really have been coding that in this conversation to talk about body size, right? And you can understand.
I actually didn't think body positivity, to be dead honest with you, I've never interpreted body positivity to be about skin color or gender ideology.
But some of
I
the
really
people
never
who,
did. I didn't.
So Jillian seems a little bit confused, and it's new information that the body positivity conversation is part of intersectionality.
Mm-hmm.
She's acting like, even as a lesbian, like, I don't know what we're talking about right now.
Oh, because of her own intersections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of the people who started body positivity and practice it today and talk about the values that
I don't think
have
anybody
meaning for
sees
them.
it that way.
I
That
don't
is
think
not a
that's
part
true.
of the movement. I think the general presumption
is that it must focus on weight and weight loss because that's a bigger narrative in the culture than some of
that
the
is
other
who
stuff.
we are seeing advocate. We're not seeing a person who's Black being like, I'm body positive because I'm Black. They're generally in a different civil rights movement.
I think that discounts the Black leadership in this movement, right?
But I'm not saying
it's an
that. I'm saying
intersectional movement where we
I
do
very
talk about
rarely
these things.
see people of color simply based on prejudice regarding their skin color using body positivity to make their point. I see them, and this is a movement. I see people
people who have multiple identities that include their skin color, their gender presentation, their disability.
Issue they are
talking about body
addressing
positivity
is what?
related to their
core
body
issue
size
they're
and
addressing.
those other issues. We had somebody else earlier
I've yet
talk
to
about
see
that.
I've never seen it in all the years. Like I've seen active.
I mean,
which
has
you
anybody
started-
else here
hang on,
seen that?
Hang on,
Because
which you started, which you
agree.
You agree with the activist?
I do agree that, especially for many Black women, it is a very intersectional reality and conversation that I am a big Black woman, or and it just all goes together. Like, I'm a plus size Black woman, or the clothing and things like that are, when we're supporting like small businesses, it is a plus size clothing shop owned by Black women, or
so it's
for Black.
Part of the intersection.
It is definitely part of the intersection,
and that is part of the narrative in the Black community. Because earlier there was a woman on there who came on there. She identifies herself as like, I'm neurodivergent and fat and disabled.
But
and
it's all about the intersection. So as many intersections as you can have, the better.
But that was how she introduced herself.
Yeah.
She named all her intersections.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting her to get to queer, but she didn't say that. But she just kind of in the first bit. And I don't think Jillian caught on to what she was doing. And then this gal, the fat activist, came on afterward. So
yeah, but I definitely think that the whole intersectional conversation is a conversation that is in the fat sphere. And we have to remember that critical theory is an intersectional theory.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, we're only going to focus on this one thing. It's Kimberly Crenshaw.
So let me play one more really quick clip here from this same woman, and then we move on to something else. But there's part of this clip I didn't quite understand. I was hoping you could explain it to me. And that is concerning discrimination.
Do I have accommodations for the body that I'm in right now, 100%. Not the body that I might be in someday? And so I think about these systemic disenfranchisements and discriminations that happen to people, especially people in larger bodies.
Yep.
And when I want to embrace body positivity, it's more than just that personal self-esteem piece.
Right.
But what you seem to be talking about is the personal self-esteem
Not
piece.
true. That's not just what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to disagree with you on any of what you just said. I'm well aware of where this started. And it was, I think, a gentleman that was pretty upset about how his wife was being treated, right? And he started it.
I do know that origin story.
I do know a lot about it. In my opinion, there's no question it has been co-opted. And when the vast majority of your TikTok influencers don't know the origin of your story, and those messages are communicated in 15-second memes, then you own meme consequences. And that's where I take umbrage with it. And it's become this amalgamation of rolling up different movements along the decades. So we can't be like, well, I'm gonna carve out the part that's the rights piece and forget, don't look over here. I look at it in its entirety, and there are parts of it that I take umbrage with.
That's how I feel about the health and wellness industry, right? I look at it in its entirety. There are parts that I take umbrage with. And we know when you introduced yourself, you talked about being a health advocate. Does your advocacy include making sure that people are not discriminated against?
Without question.
So how do you do that for people in larger bodies?
Well, personally, I don't get involved in that kind of policy outside of what I do in relationship to big agriculture, big food, big pharma, and big insurance. That's my primary focus when it comes to policy. To be dead honest, I think you probably do a better job in this area than I do. But I would never, ever disagree with you here. I would cooperate with you in any way you ask me to.
So would you say that it should be against the law to discriminate against people based on their body size?
Unquestionably.
So
okay, what does that mean? Like, because there are some.
That's a tricky question.
Because she said unquestionably, discrimination according to body size shouldn't be a thing. But so, like, are we going to have fat women play in the NBA? Are we going to have fat?
Well, I mean, I think that's like on the way out there spectrum.
Okay.
But if we look at it in real time, does that mean that Southwest should offer a free seat to someone
that's
who
a better
is plus size? I would say no. Like, at some point, you have to be responsible for yourself. So I'm not discriminating against you, but I am not going to offer you special treatment. And so if you want a seat on Southwest, you need to fit within the seat on Southwest and understand that if at any point you then infringe upon the rights of someone else's seat, you might need to buy that seat to be able to accommodate your needs. So it's not discrimination. I believe that many people would say, well, that's discrimination because I'm a plus size person. And, there was the whole conversation about Southwest and their policy and getting rid of that policy and things like that. And it's like, no, like, that's not discrimination. I think we have to have a conversation on what are you considering discrimination. It's like, yeah, I can unquestionably stand behind you and say nobody should discriminate against you. Yeah, nobody should be able to call you out of your name. Nobody should be able to, bar you from being able to get a bank account because you're a plus size person. But I also would say that I can't hire you to, I don't know.
Maybe I don't want to hire her to
run a marathon. Like, maybe I'm a person who trains marathon people, and
I don't want to hire as a trainer. I don't want to hire as a trainer at my gym. Or I don't want to hire her as a bikini model. And what is disturbing to me.
Oh, but see, that's another thing though. The idea of plus size models, and why wouldn't you hire me to be in your bikini model, your swimsuit spread? I feel fine with my body. So why are you now discriminating against my body? I think that the conversation of discrimination, we really need to have more well thought out conversations.
Here's another example: is the Uber situation.
Yeah.
Plus size people fitting in an Uber car. What if they can't get in and out properly?
If you're gonna bend my rims, you can't get in my car. I'm sorry.
But do you notice how the word discrimination is almost like this, I don't know, signal to the other person of like, oh, to be a good person right now, I have to affirm I would never discriminate. And I'm thinking, okay, we haven't defined the word. We don't know what we're really talking about. There's like this knee-jerk reaction to the word.
It's a Mott and Bailey. Not a Mott and Bailey. It's a Trojan horse. Sorry. It is very much like we need to accept this Trojan horse of, no discrimination. But as soon as we say, okay, fine, no discrimination, then I have to accept all of the things that pop out of that. So you have to be in my Uber car. You have to have 2 airplane seats. You have to be my swimsuit model. Yeah. You have there's all of these things. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Actually, we might need to discriminate. We might need to say, no, I have choice. You have choice. And we're going to participate in accordance with our choices.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think with and this does go back. I wish Kevin was here. This, because he has a lot more thoughts on this as I'm still processing it. But a lot of this conversation goes back to the civil rights era. And, who can you have in your business? Who can you not have in your business? What does discrimination look like? Do we have constitutional rights as Americans to be able to say, I will not serve this person? And, I think with some of these conversations regarding discrimination, it has opened the floodgates to say we must accept anyone and everyone, regardless of whether I want to or not, whether or not it goes against my values, my morals. And so, like when I say that it's a Trojan horse and we will not discriminate, at some point, we also have to consider the conversation of, well, if we're not going to discriminate, and I know it's, it's pressing against the church, it's creeping around in our church parking lots now, it hasn't really reached our door, but at some point it's going to be like, you don't discriminate, right, Christian? So then come and let me, come hire this gay pastor. If you don't hire him, well, then that's
because intersections,
because of intersections, and or this woman, or this, whatever, or this the person that you might not like. Like, I don't like you. I don't want to hire you. And so we need to really consider what discrimination means. How are we defining this term? Where is it appropriate and right to discriminate? Not all discrimination is wrong, bad, or illegal, and so I think we need to have better conversations around it.
Elaine gives a practical example. There are hiking paths through rock formations, and the ranger will have each person fit through a certain doorway to make sure that they can complete the trail. So would they want their own access on tight rock formations?
What? I don't even, first of all, I don't hike.
So when you go hiking, there's very tight spaces you have to fit through, and they don't want people getting stuck.
Girl, can you imagine?
So they pre-vet you to make sure that you can fit. And so is that, what's the fat accommodation? Is that discrimination?
Yeah. Absolutely not. But if you want to FAFO and get stuck, I guess, or mess around and find out,
okay.
I can't, but no, I don't know. That's not for me. Hey, if you enjoyed this content, come check out the Center for Biblical Unity. Download our free ebook, Is Christianity a White Man's Religion? Click on the link in the description below.